So did early humans really start harvesting cereal grains and plants about 10,000, 11,000 years ago? It's very likely hunter-gatherer societies started to settle down and really resource the cereal grains that they came across. Resourcing in the sense that they would cut them down, identify the seeds that they could turn into millets and gruels and different pastes and breads, and then started to replant those seeds through a process called artificial selection, where they pick the biggest seeds, hoping for the biggest yield. Most anthropologists and archaeologists agree that about 10 to 12,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers kind of put down their bows, established some farming tools and farming practices, and really started to resource and grow food from the land. But it doesn't mean that hunter-gatherers 15, 20, 50,000 years ago weren't harvesting the cereal grains from the land. They were probably using them as they found them and not necessarily planting them to regrow again, but there was definitely a point when cereal grains and different plants and grasses were being harvested by hunter-gatherers. It wasn't a sudden stop, drop the bow, pick up the farming equipment. There's obviously a transition. Now, remains of a 23,000-year-old camp, including flint sickle blades and tons of botanical remains, have been found on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. How they've been able to draw this conclusion is that on a lot of the flint blades that they come across, there's a sheen. There's a sheen or a polish on those flint blades that comes from the silica typically found in plant stalks. Those flint blades are being polished, and the only way they can really get polished is from the stalks of those plants. Now, what they find at this site is kind of interesting. Being that it's primarily a hunting and gathering site, you do find stone tools that would have been used in the process of harvesting cereal grains. Some of those tools are stone sickles and something like a mano matate, a grinding stone to break open those seeds, probably winnow the chaff into the air, and have the seeds that they can turn into some sort of bread, millet, or paste, or gruel, something to that extent. So essentially, it was a hunter-gatherer society that hunted, fished, foraged, as well as harvested cereal grains. Yeah, I have no doubt that early peoples, hunter-gatherers, people roaming the landscape, were making semi-permanent and permanent establishments, hunting and fishing from those areas, and then often resourcing the grains that were around them, resourcing the seeds, resourcing the fruits. The wild cereal grains were very, very abundant. Why not use them? It's very unlikely that some sort of alien species or advanced culture suddenly showed up one day and showed them how to farm. Farming was something that was developed over a series of time. In some places around the world, in Southeast Asia, they have evidence that cereal grain harvesting started around 50,000 years ago. But one tool in that early agricultural kind of cereal grain processing made a huge difference. And that's something called a sickle. Now, most people refer to it to a Neolithic sickle. Reason being is that during that Neolithic era is when farming became really the established practice of many peoples. But if we jump back 23,000, 50,000 years ago through the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, all the way into Southeast Asia, simple tools, especially simple stone tools, were a resource that those people crafted to harvest those grains. Let's build a sickle. Let's build the tool that the hunter-gatherer societies would have used when they started to really experiment with wild cereal grains. All right, let's build a sickle. Let's use some of this Georgetown chert. Long blades, short blades, doesn't matter. I'm going to wind up breaking them into smaller pieces when I line my sickle. As they come apart, you just take them and use them. I'm just trying to prepare this top side so I can take some longer flakes. That one broke. Don't work. Alright, some good flakes, good long blades. Some broke. I'm going to wind up using them all. Let's take some of these longer flakes and some of these shorter ones, give them a little maintenance so we can seat them into our Neolithic sickle. For this, I really want to make sure that I can keep this sharp edge. The beautiful thing about a Neolithic sickle is that as these blades wear down, I can definitely heat up the pine pitch glue I'm going to glue them in with, remove them, put a new one in, or even add a couple little fresh edges on there with the pressure flaker. I'm going to use this edge right here like an anvil for an anvil stone. Then I'm going to take my longer flakes, and with the flat side down, kind of holding my bulb of percussion, I'm looking to take essentially squares or rectangles out of this guy. I'm just going to get a light little hammerstone. Looking to produce these small little flake shards. This guy's nice and long, so I'll probably, let's see, maybe I'll seat this one. I'll break it up in there. Just right on top. And that's really what I'm going for. Two essentially gunflint looking pieces. Another nice piece right there. I want to get these kind of flat so when I lay them in there in smaller pieces, kind of have the opportunity to curve them going all the way up to the tip. So kind of small, kind of thin, just really, really sharp. So I can put that groove right down this elk antler tine and then seat all my blades in. That will work. And that one right there. So I've got all the different small little microliths or micro blades that I'm going to be putting into my sickle. The next step in the process is really putting a groove kind of from right here in my elk antler tine all the way down to the tip. This is going to give me the opportunity to have a place to hold my sickle, as well as grab whatever grains, put this around it, and kind of rip and pull, allowing all those little micro blades to do some cutting. So I'm going to use this burren right here, and that's what I'm going to use to make that groove the whole way down to my handle. Right where this white kind of trails out is probably where I'm going to stop. It gives me a big enough piece, maybe wrap some leather on there, but ultimately to sink those blades into this elk antler tine. This is the time-consuming part. But once you make your groove, it goes pretty quick. So you start small, start smooth, and nice and slow, and just kind of make that first groove. Ensuring that you flip your antler tine every so often. This style of sickle is the easiest. Again, I could use something like this and really craft some blades in there, giving myself a lot more leverage. This might be for some heavy sort of agricultural purposes. But if you're just harvesting natural grasses, some of the cereals that you come across out in the woods, kind of growing sporadically, you don't need anything too extravagant. If you want to see how to make burns, there's a video that I got. I'll add a link. But they're real easy to make, real effective tool. You can see my groove is really getting established. I'm going to drop it down a little bit. You can start to see that really defined groove. So that is the most time-consuming portion of this entire project. Putting the groove in there with the burr so you can seat your blades. Nice little handle. I think will work. Next step is dropping some pine pitch glue in this whole groove. Just one bead of it. And then once that glue is in there and it's somewhat soft, but you can still kind of push in it and make an indentation, I'm going to drop all of my blades in there, let it dry. And then I have my fully functioning Neolithic sickle. Spending some time just filling up my groove on my antler. I'm just looking to take the pine pitch glue, try and just drop it in there. Just a little bead of it the whole way up. There we go. Now I'm just going to kind of take all these little pieces that are kind of sticking out, kind of just push them into the groove. Just make sure it's all in there. Alright, so my groove is full. Now I'm just going to apply some heat and I'm going to start putting them in from the top down. Don't need too much heat. Just enough to soften everything up. First one's going in. Snug as a bug. A little more heat. The pitch glue is still a little soft. Just that little bit of extra heat coming from the candle to get the job done. Next one. Nice. Next one. A little bit of heat. Next one. And now my last one. Manage some of that pitch. You are good to go. But that right there is one Neolithic sickle that would definitely, without a doubt, cut grasses, cut your wild cereals, and ultimately give you a tool for grain processing. Now, as hunter-gatherers were exploiting resources, wild grains and cereals, they developed this tool, they created this tool. And as some research points out, that happened 20,000 plus years ago. It wasn't that they were replanting and repurposing those seeds for farming practices, but were just taking advantage of some of the wild cereal grains and some of the wild plants they identified, as they were essentially experts of the land. From those experts of the land, they created simple tools to harvest those grains, get some food, and ultimately go about living the rest of their life. There you go. One Stone Age sickle. Appreciate you watching.